Father and mother.
Joseph and Mary.
You have a chance, more.
Gotcha. Oh,
Yes.
Islam, brother Mudel.
Something was said just then that kind of threw me off, and I wanted. Oh wait, I'm sorry. First, I rise, give praise to Allah, honor to the noble Jew Ali, and honor to Grand Sheikh, Sheikhs, and to the Sheikhs, and all that is present and all that pertains to Islam.
Islam, honest to you.
Thank you. What threw me off there for a moment was when she just said, how did he put it now? That makes us all Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
When he made that statement, I'm forgetting exactly what led up to him making that statement, but it had to do
with justice.
Okay, how you explain that about justice,
Mm-hmm.
and he come back and said that makes us all Jesus.
Sure.
Can you kind of say that again for me? Kind of make me understand what you just said.
Indeed.
How you said it. I agree that we're all Jesus,
But you just
I'm
want
not
to
sure-
That's what I'm
understand.
trying to say.
So,
I'm not sure how he got to it with what
I
he
see
said.
what you're saying.
so all right. So you have, let's say Jesus, in
No,
theory.
you started off with where do we get the name Jesus from?
Right. I'm going to break that down from the east.
Gotcha.
Because it says, and later on it says that wasn't his name. Did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name?
Yes.
So that was that's what he was called, Jesus. That wasn't his name.
No.
Right.
Right? It's called Jesus because Jesus means what? Justice. And he fulfilled what duty as a prophet? To bring justice to the people.
Yes.
Right? To save the Israelites from the iron hand oppression of the Palestinian nations of Europe, who was governing a portion of Palestine at that time.
Correct.
So he's the justice. He's bringing justice to the world. Now, why he said we're all justice because of chapter 1. Man cannot die. The spirit man is one with Allah, and while Allah lives, man cannot die. So if we're all man in the physical and we're all a part of Allah, then we all have attributes in Jesus within us as well. Which is why he said we're all Jesus, because we all have the ability to invoke justice like Jesus through Allah.
Okay.
Islam.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm also coming from a passage that's in the that's in the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
when they crucified him and he reappeared in Heliopolis.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "What I am, all men
must,
are."
yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And what I can do, all men
Must.
can do. So, right. Well, that's from the Bible, but like from Heliopolis, he's saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying all of you are
the same.
Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Jesus is not a man.
Right.
It's just an attainment.
To invoke.
Right. He just became the living
Justice.
oracle word or ever. But so are we.
Right.
That's
Indeed.
where I was really coming from.
Islam.
Thank you.
Yeah, I read a little bit.
27. Were you given brief the line genealogy through which Jesus came?
Some of the great fathers who Jesus came
are
Abraham,
Boaz, Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary.
28. Why did Allah send Jesus to this earth? Or matter of fact, I'm sorry. Why did Allah send justice to this earth?
To save the Israelites from the iron hand oppression of the Palestinian nations of Europe,
who were governing a portion of Palestine at that time.
Islam. 29. How long has that been?
About 2,000 years ago.
30. What was the nationality of Ruth?
Ruth was a Moabitess.
31. What is the modern name for Moabites?
Moroccans.
32. Where's the Moroccan Empire?
Northwest of Mexico.
And I just want to pause because that's where I know the sheep was going at the 101s, where it says, the great God, Allah, the universe, redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa.
Islam.
Where's 32? Where's the Moroccan Empire?
Northwest of Mexico.
33. What is the modern name for Mexico?
Africa.
Islam.
Islam.
34. What is the title given to our ruler in Morocco?
Sultan.
35. Where do we get the name Jesus?
From the east.
36. What does the name Jesus mean?
Jesus means justice.
Islam. 37. Did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name?
Yes, but it cannot be used by those who are slaves to sin.
38. What is an angel?
An angel is the thought of Allah manifested in human flesh.
39. What are angels used for?
To carry messages to the four corners of the world, to all nations.
So will we say we're angels in this room?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Why?
All right. I'll let you.
Islam. Brother Fine go.
The prophet Noble Ali in the Holy Quran says on page 3, the reason these lessons have not been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when there was time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed these secrets. And for the first time in ages, have these secrets been delivered in the hands of the Muslims of America. All authority and rights of publishing of this pamphlet, 1927.
Islam.
Okay, so
Sheikh Shatik, want to exercise your 5 senses?
yes. What are the names? What are the names? Asiatic. Are there any kin to those angels? Yes, because you have the same father, mother who was guarding the holy city of Mecca today. To keep unbelieving. Angels, but the name of angels, Asiatics. So we are really the fallen angels that are to re-ascend and connect back to our higher self. So we are those angels.
Islam. Now, I had asked that question because now that was kind of the same situation with the Jesus and justice. Right? So now what is an angel? An angel is a thought of Allah manifested in human flesh. Right? So how could we not be as angels as well?
Exactly.
Right? We justice, we angels.
Right.
Just trying to put, tie it all together so we have a comprehension. Islam, Grand Sheikh.
Islam.
Giving observation to the great God of the universe,
Indeed.
to whom we call Allah, giving honor to all divine prophets, true divine prophets, and special honors to the last prophet in these days, Prophet Muhammad, our living Savior of humanity. Giving honors to all healthy, active Muslims.
Islam, honors to you, Grand Sheikh.
Islam. So, just also to camelback off Flamingo on that lesson, going back to the angels are used to carry messages to the four corners of the earth, to our nation. So, from a divine and from a incarnation or physical perspective, the physical angels will be the Moorish Americans as well as long as we're keeping an alignment with the ordained order of what an angel is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Moors or the angels who are not carrying these messages, then they're not angels.
Islam.
They're not divinely summoned angels.
Right, that's true.
You can bring any type of message. You can bring a message of hate, but that's not going to make you an angel.
Islam.
You know what I'm saying? Because of the divinity connection of what your divine order is not, just like a true and divine prophet. There's many prophets, but there's false prophets. Their mission is separate from a divine prophet. Same thing with the angel. So we got divine angels and we got some false angels.
Islam.
So keeping up with the record, the Moorish Americans are related to those angels, but you know them by the ones that's doing their job.
That's right.
And that's part of the reason why I say what we consider ourselves angels in here, because from a Moorish American perspective, what we come in here to do on Sundays and then what our duties are outside of these doors would be the same of an angel to me.
Right.
That's why I asked that. Brother Mudelli.
That just raised a question for me with when the Grand Sheikh said that speaking specifically of not all of us are angels, because some of us are not carrying that word to the four corners. So my question is, at what point do we take on being that angel? Because man is man all over the world, But some of us consider those angels. I'm talking Asiatics now. Some of us are considered those angels. We're all those angels, but at some point, as you were saying, which left me with a little confusion, we're not all angels. So where's that line where we become that angel?
So
Is it that point in which we make a commitment to carry the message? Or where is that line that we cross over from not being angels to being angels?
well, you say Asiatics and angels, they still have the same mother and father, right?
Yes.
But just be the same thing as today as Moorish American and black people, right?
Yeah.
We're still kindred, but
Exactly.
we on two separate paths. And now when you obligated to now carry this message, and my thoughts of what I've learned or what I am learning and studying is that you are obligated to become that angel when you, one, walk through these doors, two, when you decided to proclaim your nationality, three, when you decided to learn about yourself and bring out the highest that you can be obtained in you. Those is when you committed to those thoughts of carrying this message. And on top of that, you also committed to carry these messages just by you, again, being who you are as from, let's say, from Jack or John or whatever to Mundeli, of really going back and honoring your forefathers and foremothers and walking in the same line of them. And that's what's keeping your mind and heart pure with love. That's when this is all obligated. This is when you make these decisions to come in here and walk this lifestyle, you're making your heart and your mind pure with love. And if that's what you're doing, then you can only see, right? A member's interest can only be in one direction. So we can only see one way if this is what we choose, if this is what we're choosing to do. So your obligation now becomes that of an angel because you signed up to be an angel. When I'm breaking it down into subscripts, but by you proclaiming, by you speaking, you signed up to be an angel. So now this is the duty.
Okay.
Islam, Brother Flying, go.
So I wanted to add to the build. 75 in the Moorish questionnaire for more children. What was the answer the lower self gave to the higher self? I am going to and fro the earth seeking whom I may devour. But right here it says in 70, what is the higher self? The higher self is the mother of virtue and the harmonies of life that breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. So by higher self breeding these things, then that's how we gotta be, right?
True, but that's only once you know. See,
right.
He said 74 says, what did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him? So he's saying when he met him, he's not saying that he just arrived. Right. He's saying when he met him, right? And I can only relate to that because before you stepped into this movement and you became conscious, you thought the Negro, Black, and Color way was the way of life, right? So your higher self was there. You just now you never met him yet. So then once you met him, then you put lower self in the back seat. So he said, well, where you going? Now I'm off seeking to devour who, seeking the earth and going to and fro, seeking whom I may devour. Because obviously you done woke up now. Right. But there's many others that are not woke. Islam.
I want to come off some Grand Sheik said. Grand Sheik didn't say he wasn't angels. You said he wasn't divine angels. They're all angels. Now, coming from chapter 1, when the Father said, man gave up his higher self to gratify his lower self. That's the fall. So now you got to find your way back. And the Grand Sheik is right. How you see those angels is the ones that doing what they're supposed to, doing what you divinely call to do. That you can see, by your actions. So yes, we're all angels, but like the Grand Sheik said, there's divine angels that is doing it the right way, that's being called to do it how it's supposed to be done. And then there's those, like you said, the Negro, Black, and Color. Those are the fallen angels that we must go out and try to reach.
That's the word.
Pardon self, Flango.
It's okay, man.
That's the word I was trying
here
to put
in
together.
chapter 7.
The divine.
Sorry.
Word divine.
No, it's okay.
It says in chapter 7. It says here in chapter 7, ayat 10, the holy breath is truth. Is that which was, and is, and evermore shall be. It cannot change nor pass away. Lama said, you answer well. Now what is man? And Jesus said, man is the truth and falsehood strangely mixed. Man is the breath made flesh. So truth and falsehood are conjoined in him, and they strive, and naught goes down, and man as truth abides.
Mm-hmm. Islam.
Islam.
Great sheep.
Islam, I just want to add to this. Islam, beautiful lesson, beautiful bill. So, just giving it some more clarity. The four corners. So the four corners is pretty much what we know as square.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless if you coming from the idea of the earth is round or the earth is flat, we still dealing with the four corners because the circle is a square.
True.
So we're dealing with science. Now, one thing that hits the four corners, we talk about a message, but we really didn't get into what a message is. And that's all right. That could be another lesson. But what's just for the sake of this bill, the message that comes to the four corners is light. Light comes to the four corners. All right. And another or a definition of angel, because angel is also angle.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is also correlates to light.
That's right.
So what is hitting the four corners? Light.
Light.
Angels are light.
That's
or
right.
Angles of light.
Islam.
All right. Which shines on the four corners.
That's right.
Light is symbolic to knowledge.
I'll say truth.
Right.
Which is true.
Mm-hmm.
We got that
Right.
from the lesson. All right. So Islam. So the last part of this is going into this Quran. This is how we link this up. In the Quran, it says, we call these men the revealers of the light.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you must have the light
To give it.
to reveal the light.
Islam.
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 So what makes you a true angel or divine angel, or the point of the question I'm going to, Brother Badelimu, is at what point are you qualified from the divine as being an angel? Is once you arrive at the knowledge of truth. Once you arrive at that point where you have the light, once you have the light, then by natural order, you're going to reveal the light.
Islam.
It's like the sun. The sun is natural. That's what we call natural light, right?
That's right.
It's not, you're not hitting it with a switch. Don't come on and off as somebody controlling it. It's what we call natural light. So when you become a true angel, you become a true natural energy grid of light. So you automatically gonna reveal that light. It's not something you just gonna hold back or choose whether you're gonna drop knowledge or you're gonna do your job according to the divine order.
That's right.
If you are a true angel.
Islam.
That's right.
And that's why we're here, is to unfold to become those angels.
Absolutely.
To learn about the inheritance,
That's right.
birthright and inheritance.
That's right.
Because we back to the lesson again.
That's right.
We have the same father and mother, so that's already
It's
the
that
parental line genealogy is already there.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the lesson again, the Moorish American has the keys.
That's right.
So by inheritance, we have the keys to this knowledge. But once we arrive at the knowledge of truth and become an angel is when we'll start to carry out that mission.
That's right.
Of being a Asiatic or a missionary of Juali in America.
That's absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Yeah.
Beautiful. Right? Now, brother,
Islam.
continue.
Islam.
Nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that.
Okay, so where are we? 64. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve.
Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast.
65. What is the devil sometimes called?
The lower self.
66. How many cells are there?
2.
67. Name them.
Higher self and lower self.
68. What people represent the higher self?
Angels who protect the Holy City of Mecca.
69. What people represent the lower self?
Those who were cast out of the Holy City.
Those
who
who accept their teachings.
Can I add on to that?
True.
There's a lot of science in there. even relative to what we just speak
Oh,
about.
absolutely.
Because remember, the 5 names given to the descendants.
Mhm.
So you're still talking about the same line genealogy.
Same line genealogy, yes.
All right. So when you get into Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, you still talking about angels.
Mhm.
That's right.
And lower self activity.
Absolutely. So there's still science there. However, that needs to be interpreted. You know, because we're talking about vibratory rates now.
For vibratory,
But,
that's right.
but it's the same line.
Same line
Like,
genealogy.
like you said earlier, that you might have said it that you actually said it that Moorish American and black,
Mhm.
Right, exactly.
according to concept.
Right.
We know there are no Negro blacks and colors, but however, it's a vibratory rate which has the same
Energy. Indeed.
Same
so
parent,
it's
yeah.
sort of like the same type of conversation we have.
It's
but-
wrong.
Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, which are entities and deities that some orders actually worship.
Mhm.
But they also mean light.
That's right.
And Lucifer, right? Mhm.
So
That's
these
right.
are just another forms of light on the spectrum
That's right.
that people who know already understand that, so they don't look at Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast as people or individuals walking around,
Mhm.
or
No.
he's the devil, or he's this type. No, that's an energy.
Mhm.
That's right. That's right.
But we're talking about the same line of people.
Same line of
According
genealogy,
to our
yes.
vibration determines
What?
what name we're associated with
That's
in the spectrum.
Sure.
Islam.
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 Right. Perfect.
71. Can the higher self pass away?
No,
72. Why?
because it is Allah and man.
73. What does the lower self breed?
Hatred, slander, losers, murders, death, and everything that harms. Now, if you don't mind,
Islam.
now I'm going to come back up what the Grand Sheik said about the other one, Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, the beast. The same 5,
Mhm.
same principles. I'm talking about their acts.
Mhm.
They're like guineas. You know, so yeah.
Islam.
That's all I want to do, just make that little small connection.
Islam.
And keep it going, brother. Wow, that's a good one.
74. What did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him?
Where are you going, Satan?
75. What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self?
I'm going to and fro, seeking whom I may devour.
76. As he finished his task of devouring.
Yes, bless you.
77. When was his time declared out?
When you nailed Jesus to the cross, or justice to the cross.
Islam. 78. What was the last words justice uttered?
It is finished.
79. What did he have reference to?
The end of Satan.
Islam. 80. What did Jesus say that he will return to conquer him?
Yes.
81. What is the name of the first person into whom Jesus was first reincarnated?
Prophet Muhammad the Conqueror.
82. Was Satan to be bound then?
Satan must be bound in part.
83. When was the head of Satan taken off?
1453. Byzantine.
84. By whom?
By Muhammad.
85. Name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of Northwest by the European nations in 1774.
Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopian.
86. Negro.
Name
Negro,
given to a
the name
river
given to a river in
in
West Africa
by
by
the
Moors
Moors because it
because it
contains
contains
black water.
87. What is meant by the word black?
Black,
Black, according to science, means death.
What does the word colored mean?
Colored means anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed.
89. What does Ethiopia mean?
Ethiopia means something divided.
90. Can a man be Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian?
No,
91. Why?
because man is made in the likeness and image of Allah.
92. What title does Satan give himself?
God.
Now we can understand that off of what we just
Yes.
referenced about the two energies.
Absolutely.
93. Will you define the word white?
White means purity. Purity means God. And God means rulers of the land.
94. To whom do we refer at times as being the great God?
Allah.
95. Is the devil made in the image and likeness of Allah?
No. He is a shadow of our lower selves and will pass away.
96. Who made the devil?
Elohim.
97. Who is Elohim?
Elohim is the seven created spirits that created everything that was, is, and evermore to be.
98. What is Elohim sometimes called?
The seven eyes of Allah.
99. How many days are in a circle?
7 days.
100. How many days are in a creation?
7 days.
101. According to science, how many days are in a year?
7 days.
Islam knows. Next, I have Sheikh Shatik. Give his
Islam.
demonstration. Give me your full attention.
I got
Islam
a
family.
good one. It's short, but there's a lot of science in it. It comes right on the heels of this. And it's chapter 25, which comes to what?
7.
7. So we're gonna keep it in divine perspective. Chapter 25, XXV. Once everybody have it, then I'll start.
I had a question.
Oh, okay. I'll take the question now.
Okay, I'm kind of thinking that it might be answered along with what you're getting ready to do.
I'll never know till you say it.
But going back to the last 101, when it says how many days in a year?
7 days.
7 days.
Mhm.
So to be clear on that, how many days in a year? 7 days.
Mhm.
Is 7 days the only measure of time in the spirit world? The only measure of time with Allah? Because it's only 7 days in a circle, 7 days in creation, and 7 days in a year. So all these other days, like let's just say from 1 to 7, and from 8 and beyond is just like man-made time.
Right. There's no such thing as an 8th day. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's right here. No. See, listen. What's on the Quran?
Mm-hmm.
7 days and what? 4 brackets. The angels representing the 4 corners of the earth, and 7 days. I'm saying it's only 7. God rests on the what? 7th day. You know what I'm saying? So that's what that is giving reference to. I don't care what comes after that. There's no 8th day. There's only 7. You got the 7. You got the 7 planets, the 7 governing planets, and the 12 ruling. Comes back to what? 3. That's why it's all 7 days. So 3 times less. 7 is what?
21.
Okay, and 21 turns around is what? 12. Or 3. Right, it comes right back. So.
And also, just to give you a little clear science of what the prophet is really referencing is that times we measure time in the Quran. It says we measure time by cycle ages.
Right.
So really, why everything is 7 days, and why 7 is the number of perfection, because it represents a planetary cycle above.
That's
so
what I'm talking
above,
about.
so below.
Right.
Now I'm talking masonry. So as the planets spin above, every week starts a new cycle. So that's how we operate down here. So it can go 8, 9, 10 days, but it wouldn't make sense above.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like,
On a divine level.
Why we have 29 and 31 days in a month is because the moon cycles the earth every 29 and 31 days. So these are different cycles that's going on above, which relates down here of why we go 7 days a week, 12 months, things like that.
Right.
It's just cycles.
Okay.
And time is measured by cycles.
Right. By cycle, by ages and cycles. Okay, now to get to this lesson here, chapter 25. Everybody have it?
Oh, yeah.
It's
25.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
7 is also the highest number in the universe.
Islam.
So we can't have more days because a day just represents a degree.
Right.
All right. So the day is in alignment with it's a cycle. So 7 cycles, 7 degrees.
That's
7
right.
steps,
7 steps, 7 planes. Right.
Adding on to what was already said.
Mm-hmm.
So a day just goes according to the clock.
Islam.
The clock is already set within the energy grids of the universe.
That's right.
So it's a cycle. Every 7 days, or 7 numbers represents perfection. 8 and 9 is not necessarily or not really numbers. They're actually repeats.
Right.
7 is the highest number.
Yes.
A lot of people get that confused because they think 9 is the highest number and 9 is not the highest number.
No, 9 repeats. Because
9 is 1.
Right, exactly.
And 0 is not a number at all.
It's not a number at all, right.
And because we learn mathematics wrong,
that's right.
We already was programmed and was brought off of equilibrium.
Islam.
From childhood.
That's it, right.
So a lot of us have problems in school in the subject of math, and it is because we were taught wrong.
We're taught wrong.
So we can't sync with the universe properly because we are what we call offbeat.
Offbeat, that's right.
Our harmonics,
it's off.
Numerics is off sync or off balance with each other.
Right, true.
So we can't naturally vibe with math because we taught math wrong.
Right.
You know, so that's why the Quran speaks about the science of 7 days, according to science, not according to somebody's curriculum.
Right, according to science.
According to science, it's only 7 days in a year or a week, but they're both the same.
So, thank you, Grand Chief. Okay, chapter 25. I just felt that this here is important in line with everything that we're speaking about. Ye are the children of what one father, provided for by who? His care. And the breast of one mother has given you suck, right? We all have the same father and mother. Let the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy what? Father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love. Our hearts and minds should be pure in love, right? And unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of this whole race. See, this whole entire race, the human race. And his care be continued to you all in your love to who? Each other. So we should all learn to what? Love instead of hate. With that, I'm going to yield. I'm going to bring up our own illustrious Grand Sheik. He will continue from that standpoint of love and take us further. Islam. But that was appropriate.
Islam. Thank you, brother.
More than welcome, Grand Sheik.
Islam. Islam already risen, but I will always rise in the name of Allah. Islam. So we're talking and we're coming from the Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And Prophet Noble Drew Ali stated that we have the Quran or the Quran as the revealed word of God, Allah.
Islam.
He also said that we were inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran. Thank you, brother. So just setting the tone, just throwing a couple phrases out there that we can understand and appreciate what the Quran really represents. Because we talk about law, there's a lot of confusion about what's law, what is not law, what is the divine movement, what is the national movement, and sometimes we get off centered of what it really represents. And anything that we can experience here in the physical world is still related to the Quran. Our life cycle, man's life cycle, is still based off of the Quran.
Islam.
So again, we might not accept the words, the language, the classification of the Quran. We might reject that in concept, but we can't reject the universal concept of the Quran, because the object of man's life is his complete unfoldment.
That's right.
So it says that as man unfolds, his God unfolds. And man's God today, tomorrow is not God.
That's right.
So our God has to constantly change. But what is God? Because God is not a supreme being either. Again, it's all perception. As a man thinketh, so shall he be. So it says a man's ideal is his God. So my God and your God might be two different gods. But generally speaking, we all just call upon the term God. And then we say, in God we trust. Who or what do you trust? You're only going to trust your ideal.
That's right.
And your ideal is subject to change. So if a man's ideal is his God, and as God unfolds, as man unfolds his God unfold, man's God today, tomorrow is not God. So the God you thought about yesterday, you just learned was a phony. But look how much credence we put into the term God. That it's like living up to someone who has being a role model. Then we learned that role model wasn't all that person was cracked up to be. Once we learned the foes and ETCs of then we like, oh man, now we got to look for another role model. Now we got to look for another God.
Exactly.
And again, this is how life is constantly changing for those who know. So here we got to understand, sometimes when I study and I get a different interpretation of something, and I'm building with myself, sometimes I just got to smile, and appreciate that I've been fooled. It's not that somebody fooled me, it's just I fooled myself. Because as man unfolds, as God unfolds. So we constantly should go through these changes where we're realizing that we've been had by yesterday's thought pattern. It's not.
And I got recently I built with myself on it. Is it not only possible because knowledge is infinite? So just because my God yesterday is different from today, I wouldn't if you would agree that the thought was not necessarily wrong.
No, it wasn't.
In some cases, it's just that it's just a part of the unfoldment because knowledge is infinite. So you never really max out or be capacitated with knowledge because it never stops.
True.
So you're gonna always unfold something.
Absolutely. You should. And the lesson says thought must be developed by the exercising of strength.
That's right.
So what you're doing is just perfecting that concept or that perception. Doesn't mean that the other one was completely wrong, but it would have to be a part of the experience. So it was all necessary to get to that point. Because the lesson says man is here to gain perfection through what? No, through experience.
Through experience.
So experience is the key and is necessary because it's part of the unfoldment.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You hit it. As man unfolds, as God unfolds. Not necessarily that the God today is different from the God yesterday. Your concept of what the God from yesterday, from today will change.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Yet it's the same God, so to speak. But your concept will change from day to day. I don't care who you are. That's why it says, as man unfolds, as God unfolds. Each day you get a different unfoldment of what God is.
Absolutely. Because God can't change.
Self change, but your concept.
Absolutely. Because truth don't change.
Truth don't change, but your concept of truth change.
Absolutely. So we got to perfect truth.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. because it clears up a lot of concepts. Because I get people ask me stuff like that. What do you mean? What is God? I said, well, God's what you see it is. You know what I'm saying? How you see it. Some people don't see no God at all. So it's so. But I mean, your concept of what you see each and every day, and what you say you. Okay, I don't like this term, but what you say you believe in, you have to look to see if you find that same belief the next day you wake up and you see, does your belief from yesterday connect with it today? You know what I'm saying? Mine's changed constantly, but yet I know like Allah is one. But my concept of how Allah gives me my visions and my thoughts are different from day to day because each day is different.
Islam. The science of the wise man and the fool.
Islam. And that brings me to a statement that Noble Drew Ali made in his days. He says that he knows where every member is at along the way. And how I interpret that statement is you can see someone unfolding, just like I was speaking about earlier about the point of reference of when a person becomes that angel, the light. You can physically see it. You can feel the vibration. And like absolutely. The Quran speaks about when Jesus walked in the room, everybody stood and said, "All hail," even though he didn't speak. He didn't introduce himself as Jesus. But when they came, they knew that was the Messiah because of the vibration. That's right. You understand? So this is how once we also become angels and become enlightened, how we able to detect other energies and other patterns. There's no different from animals. They're able to pick up what they call senses, right? They're able to pick up on the energies of different things, of other animals, of people, of deities, spirits, weather changes,
I like to use the Highlander too.
Yes, Islam. So they can pick up on these energies, and their senses is so heightened that it helps them be able to navigate and do their job better. Helps them they're able to hunt better. They'll be able to defend themselves from being hunted.
That's right.
They'll be able to, move according to the weather, to the seasons, etc. So you understand that these are the same experiences that man has to learn.
That's right.
How to do his job, how to be himself. And if we don't unfold, then we can't defend ourselves. We can't preserve ourselves. We can't tune in properly because, again, we haven't unfolded to a certain degree where we can be who we say we are supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And it's a domino effect. So I just want to throw that out there. And because we're talking about the Quran. So it says that perception of thyself and he who created thee.
Ooh.
What else is it that man needed to know?
No. That's true.
So those of us who are well studied in the Quran know this is as the highest truth.
Absolutely.
The highest knowledge.
That's right.
That can be obtained in the physical. Because of the acknowledgement of truth, not just because of it's written under the word called under the title Quran, but when you understand that these are ancient hieroglyphs and texts and scrolls from all the lessons of the ages.
That's right. That's right.
In every script and every scroll, you're going to find a phrase referred to as man, know thyself. It's ancient.
That's right.
And it's in everybody's book.
That's right.
It's in everybody's scriptures.
That's right. Know thyself.
Every prophet talked that same language.
That's right.
So when our nationality card reiterates that we honor all true and divine prophets, and our Quran tells us that all the prophets came with the same message.
That's right.
So those messages that were sent to the four corners, again, were by true and divine prophets. So if you're in alignment with any of the prophets, of the true and divine prophets, you become an angel. because a prophet is an angel.
That's right.
So we can't get that twisted.
No, can't get it twisted at all.
Prophet or any prophet or true divine prophet is an ordained prophet. However, they're still an angel.
That's right.
And they came manifested in the flesh.
In the flesh.
So therefore, they still have that line genealogy of having the same parents as well. And then the scriptures also says that each land will be sent a prophet.
That's right.
So, i.e., the divine manifested in flesh. To send message where? To the four corners. So they didn't just send the divine or God or whatever the perception you want it to be. They didn't send one prophet to all four corners. The message was that each land will be sent a prophet. Looking like the natives of that land, speaking the language of that land, and in the likeness of his brother. Right? So therefore, that's just an angle of light from that same spectrum again.
That's right.
So anytime you mention Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha, Confucius, etc., you're just talking about a different angle of light.
That's all.
It came from the same source.
The same source. That's all. That's right.
Islam. So I'm going to go into chapter 14. And we're just going to keep it all Quran.
Cool.
Islam.
Wow, Grant. You said chapter 14, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's five principles.
Mm-hmm.
Taking you back to 5 principles.
Mm-hmm.
But this time it's in lesson form.
Islam.
Love that part. Deep.
Islam. And I'm going to just come, Brother Mandela. I need to call him out because he needs to get this too.
He's in the bathroom. No, he's not. You're please call him.
Islam. So I'm going to just vibrate on this until he gets here. But the title is John the Harbinger returns to Hebron and lives as a hermit in the wild. He visits Jerusalem and speaks to the people. So again, I'm just going to finalize my thought in my lesson that was started earlier with the angels, Islam, and just how we constitute that. And also, we got to just look at how to use the Quran as a tool. You know, how do we unlock certain issues, crises that goes on within us? How do we unfold? Back to Brother Badeli's question earlier. If I need some instructions to become an angel, or to unfold into being an angel, then I need to know blueprint. I need some instructions behind this. And this is, again, we might not understand this as an instruction, but if we look in the Quran, it tells us that these are the holy instructions. So instructions to do what? That means that if there's an instruction, that means that there's an overall agenda. Right?
Right.
There's some type of plan.
Absolutely.
There's some type of job that needs to be done. Something needs to be carried out in a particular way.
Absolutely.
So these are instructions to get to that point. So it's also can be considered a map.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so again, a man's perception or a man's ideal is his God. So I look at the Quran in many different aspects as more than just one thing to me.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I can call it a map.
Definitely.
Where somebody else might say, well, how do you see that as a map? Because they're looking at a regular map as, well, a map looks like this. Well, coordinates on it and streets and roads and etc. Understand, but it's perception.
That's right.
So it's still a map.
Absolutely.
But it's illustrated and formatted different.
That's all.
So again, we have to get back into the science of something, of what it, not just what a map looks like, but when we understand what a map is, then you know it has many different looks.
Many different forms. That's right.
That's how we have to decode how we've been taught. That we can't just take what we think something means and just max out at that thought pattern and say it's only that. Once we become capacitated in that, then that's when we're under that spell of that program. That we have to take something and look at it in a whole different measure. And not all the time wait for the instructions or for the interpretation on how someone else looks at it. Automatically dismantle it and find another way to put it back together. We have that type of ability. That's what a mastermind would do, or a master at any trade.
That's right.
That's what creation is all about. And we have to develop that in us because we naturally are creators.
That's right.
But anybody can come up with a finished project, but that don't mean that that's the capacity of that project. Now you can take that and elevate that or perfect that and turn that into a whole another project. And that's how language and words was put together. That's how languages was put together. So I'm in chapter 14, Islam. So John, the harbinger, returns. All of this is science. He returns. Meaning he was once dead. Lives as a hermit now. So now he returned as a hermit. Different school of thought. So sometimes you got to come back to the same place you was at, but with a different interpretation. So that's those are keys. Islam. I always give that analogy to, like, I went through school, grade school, just like everybody else, but I didn't go through there like eager to know. I didn't go through there with the knowledge that I have now. And I always said that if I had that opportunity to go back
with the stuff I have now,
then I'll be explosive.
Oh boy.
However, I don't necessarily need to go back to that particular institution, but I do have to go back to the basics. And now, like I said, with the math, now I have to reteach myself what wasn't taught to me or what I didn't learn in grade school. But don't think that we just getting this information and we shooting up into the stars with this. We get this information, we got to go back to the basics.
That's right. Fix that.
That's how the prophet taught us. And that's what he even said in code word. You get a good European education, and then I could use you. So we got to understand that he's telling you to go back to the program.
See how they programmed you.
And decode that. That's right. Reprogram it. Now, once you understand, now you're that much greater.
That's right.
You're that much useful.
That's right.
The next time around.
That's right.
But don't leave that alone and then just try to shoot up. We always looking for something greater. Or we want to touch the higher stuff, or what we think is the higher lessons. And the highest lessons are always the basics. Do not forget that lesson. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Allah first.
I just want to say on the program that I had learned in reference to it was Alice Trudeau take this, and he said basically the gist of it was mastering the basics first. As much as, like you were saying, as much as we want to move forward and learn things, it was, I think he was training with a Shaolin monk. And basically the book said to him, I want to show you a punch. And he said, I know how to punch. And then he said, no, I want to know the advanced things that you know.
Mm-hmm.
And what he basically sort of saying is that I'm not scared of a man that knows a lot of different techniques. I'm scared of a man who has practiced that one punch 50,000 or how many times he had practiced. So master the basis. I don't understand what you're saying.
Islam. Appreciate that. Islam. So if you just bear with me, I'm just moving forward, and as certain things hit me, I feel obligated to just speak on it. So he visits Jerusalem and speaks to the people. This is in the title again. And you got to always read and study the title, because it'd be very hard to understand like what you're reading if you don't go into the science of it. Like breaking down, he returned back to now another school of thought. If you can't put that together in the beginning, it's going to be hard to really get what's being said to you, because it's all coded. Islam. And what we're doing is sometimes this, when I first started studying the Quran, it aggravated me.
Yeah, me too.
With the thous, the thous, and the shalls, and all of that, my mind was like crazy. Like, why am I reading this? You know, so we have to train ourselves. It's part of the program. And it's also part of the deprogram.
Right.
You're not deprogramming it by staying away from it. You have to force attention to it to actually go back through the deprogramming process. So people look at this as like they think that they're being indoctrinated some more.
Right.
And they're not. But again, it's part of us being those angels. We have to teach people. You have to automatically know how people are intimidated towards certain things,
right.
And you have to redirect them. You have to be the advocate. You have to be the adversary when you're teaching people. Just like the lesson Brother Don just gave about the Shaolin monk. Same science.
Right.
You can't just agree to the person who's coming at you for knowledge. You can't agree to their thought pattern all the time. As being a wise person, you have to redirect what their misinformation is. That's how you actually teaching them. So it says, it came to pass when John, the son of Zacharias and Elizabeth, had finished all his studies in the Egyptian schools. Mm-hmm. So back to the signs I just explained, right? He returns back to Hebron. So it's giving you this thought right here. He had finished all his studies in the Egyptian schools, and he returned to Hebron, where he abode for certain days. Then he sought through the wilderness and made his home in David's cave. And so symbolically, though, let's not just get caught up on it. David represents what?
The house.
Which house? It can be, but according to the lesson, because this is a puzzle, so it's going to make reference to other parts of the Quran you're already familiar with, or should be familiar with. So when you said the house of David is what represents what? If I just was having a whole nother conversation, I'd just say, man, what's the house of David? Then you should be able to give me a perception, because remember, everything is perception. We might get several different answers here, but you have to have a perception of David, because it's part of your instructions. So now if it's telling you that he returned to David's cave or made his home in David's cave, then in order for this to make sense, you got to already have a perception of what David's cave represents. It's hard to move forward with the Quran's teaching if you don't follow the full story. That's like if you're watching a sitcom or episode. If you're watching a sitcom, or back in the day, women used to watch what they call the soap operas, the stories, all of that, right? You see how you miss a couple of episodes, now you try to jump in, and now you lost. Because you like, well, what don't happen now? They got this going on and that going on. Now it's hard to follow the story, because now you're trying to look at the 7th episode, but you're going to miss the 4th, 5th, and 6th. You see, so you see how it throws you off now with the story? It's the same situation here when we're studying more science and we're studying these lessons. It's hard to follow the story if we haven't really studied from the beginning. And it's going to make it that much harder when we do it. And not just the story of the Quran, but the story of life, the story of nationality and birthright. Is trust me, it's all a story, and it's the greatest story that was ever told, which is representing us, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So if we're not familiar with the story, and it's the greatest story ever told, what is that telling us? That we're not familiar with our own story. That means that somebody else knows our story greater than us. Was everything all right, Bob?
It is.
All right. All right, so thank you. Yes, sir.
Now, you said was the house of David. Face me to 101. So Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Judah, in the house of David. So John returned back to Hebron. He returned back to where Jesus was born, in the house of David.
All right, Islam. Yes, sir.
And Judah.
I'm sorry, Grand Chick, I missed it if you said what the house of David was.
No, I was throwing it around the room to get a different interpretation because it's going to be different interpretations of David. Just like you hear here is referred to as David's cave. Now, he was just making reference to the one-on-ones that speaks about the house of David where Jesus was born. So understand, according to your studies, your vision of the house of David or David itself will change.
Okay. Absolutely.
Because David is talked about in several different scenarios. Just like just go to another angle with it. It speaks about David, slave to Goliath of the dark. So what's the side? Because that's not a house now.
No.
But it's related. But now you got to know why it said that.
Yes.
Because if you're not studying, you'll be thinking it's two different Davids, unrelated. They have nothing to do with each other. And again, you'll be off the story. Islam? Did you have your hand up, sister? You, Majay? No? If you like, I didn't know if I seen body motion. I didn't know if it was actually your hand up for a response. Oh, all right, Islam. Islam, and listen, that's all relevant. That's all relevant. Because a cave also could be symbolic of a house. Because especially in those days, their house was a cave. And still is in certain territories. You know, so cave or house is a dwelling place. Just like a temple is a dwelling place. A lodge is a dwelling place. So David's cave or David's house could just be symbolic of a dwelling place that holds the vibration of David. So the key is, what is David? David is light. And respect to, but not in opposition to, physical line genealogy or characters. These characters sometimes will symbolize other things other than human beings. So it might be told in a story as a human, but the animal, or I mean, not necessarily an animal, but the character that is making reference to a human being could be symbolizing other energy patterns.
Allegory.
Just like an animal in the zodiac might be symbolized as an animal, but might be representing a higher vibration than an animal itself. Yes. What was the word you used? Kundalini. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So again, we're just talking about the house of David. Now, if you go into like Rastafarian type lessons, then you'll understand, or they have a perception, and when they start talking about Judah and what Judah represents and what David represents, and then you see even in Hebrew and in certain schools of thought, you have David represented symbolically, symbol-wise, as what we call hex alpha, which is a 6-pointed star, which they call the Star of David or the Star of Dawood.
That's right. That's a Dawood.
So understanding what those points represent, what hex alpha represents. So again, this is just what you would call a representation of a certain energy grid, regardless of what your perception of that is, vibration. We'll get into that as far as what house that represents when we get back to that. And where many years before he was instructed by the Egyptian sages or sage. It says sage. I said sages because there were many sages in Islam. Some people call him the hermit of the Engedi, and others said he is the wild man of the hills. He clothed himself with the skins of the beast. His food was carrots, honey, nuts, and fruits. When John was 30 years of age, he went into Jerusalem, and in the marketplace he sat in silence for 7 days. The common people, now understand this, right? The common people, because in other texts it says Jesus spoke to who? The common people. So when you hear this throughout the text and scriptures, you'll realize that the lessons always went really to the common people. So when you're talking about the common people, you're talking about the common man, which is one and the same. Man is just singular. Common people will be plural, but the common people are a representation of what they call the common law. So when you hear that term, because I use it a lot, common law, and I'm making reference to ancient law, right? Or constitutional law, or law from the people, because the people are the government, right? So whenever you speak about a republic form of government, republic means people.
Right.
So what type of people? Who are the people? It's the common people. So the common people constitutes the law.
Absolutely.
Especially in a republic. Absolutely. That's the whole vibration of what republic even means.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
We know that we are in, it's always a republic. Why do people refer to it as a democracy?
Well,
okay, now
I understand.
It's always a republic. It's never that.
But
why do people refer to it?
The question is, the answer is because republic and democracy are two different words, and they don't mean the same thing. People relate that to, because they hear Republic Party, then they think opposite Democratic Party, but those are parties. We have a republic form of government. That's not a republic party.
Right.
So republic form of government, there's not an opposite form of government called democracy form of government. And people challenge that as if it's one or the other. And that's not necessarily the case.
No.
So when you hear the term democracy and remember, it has several different meanings as well. But and here in America, the term democracy is used to mean freedom. It's defined as freedom. So the concept of a republic form of government means people, by the people, for the people, etc. So it's the what they call the land of the free, home of the brave. So the whole thing is every man is created equal and free. Their concept of freedom is democracy. So democracy just became a synonym for freedom. Yes. So if you speak against democracy, for most people who think or are under the definition of freedom, thinking that you're against or anti-government or anti-freedom because you speak against democracy. Now, democracy is an ancient word and it is used in ancient texts. So it's not off, it's not wrong. It's just that most people keep intertwining it with a form of government, and it doesn't mean democracy is not used to replace the republic form of government.
Right.
It supports the republic form of government.
That was why I asked you that, because I know that. We know that. But a lot of people don't. And when I'm out teaching or like enlightening, that is what I explain to them, that same type of concept, not like how you said it, but how I would say it, but the same meaning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or like it's parties within the republic.
Yes, that's all.
That's all. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir. So I'm gonna move forward. So he was in a marketplace and he sat for 7 days. The common people and the priests, the scribes and the Pharisees came out in multitudes to see the silent hermit of the hills. But none were bold enough to ask him who he was. But when his silence was done, and he stood forth in the midst of all and said, and I want to just keep him, highlight that phrase, the part that it said he sat in silence for 7 days. 7 days is significant in this situation, just in even sitting in silence, because that also becomes a lot of rituals and rites of passages that's done according. What did you say? Mourning. What do you mean by mourning?
Like the so-called Jewish religion, they take 7 days to mourn.
Oh, all right, Islam. Yes, so that could be used in different rituals, but the silence for 7 days is a ritual that he did, which he learned this from the sages. So this is Egyptian science that they sat in silence for 7 days. All right, so there's going to be reasons, significance on why that's done. Dealing with, some people do it for meditation purposes. Some people even do it for punishment, for different things. But again, it's significant. So that just needs to be incorporated in your study somehow. That's Egyptian, that's old, that's ancient. Why was that being done? That's something you can revisit later. Islam, you want to say something?
I used to go to a Buddhist retreat.
A Buddhist retreat?
And it was for people of color. And for 7 days, we had to sit in silence. It was very difficult for me to do, but I did it. And then after like the 7th day, it was almost difficult to talk to me. It's like my whole world felt different.
It's like a reset.
Yeah, it's definitely a reset. Then I noticed I started creating, and my creating decided to take off. And because of that, I became pretty much international. But I used to go like every other year to this retreat. I think they still have it.
Yeah,
It's in Canada, but we could do that here.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's being done in different rituals, different religions, different practices out there, but the science of it, on like you said, your statement was we was in a Buddhist retreat and we had to sit for 7 days in silence. Our job now is like John did. You've done that before. Now you got to go back and do it again, but understanding why you did that. Because the effect didn't take place yet if you can't understand what you've done. So that means the lesson has not been revealed to you yet if you can't explain why that occurred. And that's with everything. That's not just pointing you out there. That's how life is. That's why it says the accident is due to praise. Because we have to understand that law governs all events. So everything that we do or experience or witness is for a divine reason. And there's a lesson in that. And until we learn the lesson on why the event occurred, then it's just going to repeat itself. And this is why, going back to the Quran, it states again that here he tarries many ages until his lessons are all learned. So you're going to keep tarrying here until we understand like this 7 whole thing, how we were just building on 7. Our whole creation, our whole physical frame is built off 7. Until we really understand it and not just say it and glorify it, we'll put a 7, we'll rock the 7 different illustrations, but we got to understand it and live out that 7. Because that 7 is man. That 7 is also God. It's many things, right? We could talk about chakras, zodiac, and go wherever we want to go with it, but until we able to be a mastermind and illustrate that 7 vibrational speaking, then we're going to keep tarrying here in all of these different brilliant schools until we able to really understand what that 7 really means. So I'm just giving us an analogy of that. Moore Science Temple represents 7 too, like many schools. However, we can go through the school and still don't understand what's going on. But just because we got 7 all over the place don't mean we mastered it, and don't mean we're going to evolve because we were affiliated with the 7. And that's how some of us think. You know, that because of by association, we automatically got it. And we're going to pass. Islam? So number 8, ayat 8, he says, behold, the king has come. The prophets told of him. The wise men long looked for him. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. So this was what he said after 7 days. After 7 days of silence, after 7 days of meditation, after 7 days of just examination period. After 7 days, his first words was, prepare, O Israel, to meet your king. So just listen to the story and the science of this, right? So after he examined everything, this is what the divine had instructed him to do, to say. This was his purpose of being there. So again, I'm breaking this down because I'm coming back to the angel, on how you know what this angel is, or how you detect or recognize an angel when you see it. And that was all he said. And then he disappeared. And no one knew where he had gone. And there was great unrest through all of Jerusalem. So understand this. Just another quick hint, key. We dealt with this a couple weeks ago. He was in Jerusalem, according to the text. But the only words he said was, "Prepare, O Israel, to meet your king." So again, he's in, according to the lesson, he's in Jerusalem, and he referred to the people as Israel. Now you go back to, why did Allah send Jesus to this earth? To save the Israelites
from the iron-handed oppression of the pale-skinned nations of Europe,
who were governing
portion of
Palestine at that time. So the other key is, Palestine is different from where it's at now. Israel is not where they saying it is. In Jerusalem, not even talked about from that perspective, but it's the holy city. You understand? So it's a lot of controversy about the people, who they are, what they were referred to then, what they refer to as now, and who is guarding the holy city today. That's also key, because that comes back to the birthrights. And that also goes to a spiritual, angelic type of birthright. Because whoever's guarding the holy city, now this goes into what most of our fellow Muslims are taught. You know, you defend your heritage, you defend the holy city, and that's why you have certain gatekeepers that's over there. That's why they're there. That's why they summons there, and in their mentality, they're guarding the holy city. They're guarding the creed of Islam. To them, that's all they know. That is the causeless cause of them. Where now that'll be singled out under different names that I don't even want to talk about. But now, if you talk like that over here, you'll be classified. But it's perception, is how you program, and it's also about where we live today, where the people here have no connection to that. They're taught to go there, take Hajj, and come back, and that's totally different. That's why the Prophet says that Chicago will be our new Mecca. We don't necessarily have to go over there to get encrypted or consecrated with this mission. So we got to learn how to protect the holy city of Mecca over here. There's a way to do that. And Drew Ali taught that, and this is what he consecrated. And we don't really understand it. Again, that's just another lesson for another time and another unfoldment. I'm at 12, actually. Thank you. And they sent couriers forth to talk with him, that they might know about the coming king. And he came again into the marketplace, and all the city came to hear him speak. He said, "Be not disturbed, you rulers of the state." So I'm going to go back to the question there. Why did Allah send Jesus to the earth? To save the Israelites from the iron hand oppression of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. So the iron hand oppression is also symbolic of the rulers. The rulers. Everybody with me?
Yes.
The oppressors of the state, the rulers, whatever you want to call them. Slave holders, slave masters, whatever you want to call them, right? Just giving you a thought pattern. So he told them, be not disturbed while I'm here. But why would they be disturbed? Why did he say that after everything else that he could? It just broke down. The rulers sent couriers out to see what was going on. That's how nervous they was. Why? Because they knew they was doing something unjust.
And Grant, she can take you back to when Yeshua was born.
Mm-hmm.
King Herod, who was to take his throne. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Who's his king that's born? Mm-hmm. So that's the same. It takes me right back there. Taking the same concept.
Islam. Mm-hmm. Now they refer to as, I'm gonna back up a little bit. They refer to the Messiah as Jesus. So in that passage going back in the beginning, when he sat in silent meditation at the marketplace, they thought he was the Messiah. They said the Messiah has come. So in their mind, they thinking he's Jesus. So keep that in mind. I meant to go back to that. So again, I'm going to repeat ayat 14. Be not disturbed, you rulers of the state. The state of what? The state of Israel? State of Jerusalem? It's a thought. The common people, remember, right? This is plural, past where this was at. Because this is still, you can pertain this lesson to right here.
Right now. That's right. Absolutely.
State of New Jersey, state of New York. There's a lesson in this for everybody. Because when you demonstrate these degrees and come like he was coming, and you make them people nervous.
Definitely.
When that's why the prophet says, stop flashing your cards. They're Europeans. It causes confusion because it's the same scenario.
That's right.
Don't be disturbed is what the prophet is saying. We Moorish Americans, we come into we got a job, understand? But right now, we trying to learn about our forefathers' ancient and divine creed. So the prophet is saying the same thing. Be not disturbed.
Absolutely.
But you understand why they are disturbed. It's the same cycle. Let me get to this thought. Go ahead.
It's important. I didn't mean to cut your thought, but before you close, make sure you read the proclamation.
Islam. The coming king is no antagonist. This is his words, John's words.
Yeah, absolutely.
He seeks no place on the earthly throne. The eyes of men shall see it not, and none can enter but the pure in heart. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. Again, he repeated. Again, the hermit disappeared. The people strove to follow him, but he had drawn a veil about his form, and men could see him not. The Jewish feast came. The Jewish feast day came. Jerusalem was filled with Jews. Now again, Jerusalem was filled with Jews. We can't think Jews as who we see today that refer them to themselves as Jews. They're referring to themselves like that because they're trying to fit the line genealogy and the birthright. But you got to understand the common people of Israel were the ancient Moabites.
That's right. Right.
Were the ancient Canaanites, which are the modern day Moroccans and Moorish Americans. So we got to understand that it's talking about us.
Yes, absolutely.
Proselytes from every part of Palestine. And John stood in the temple court and said, that's just another key and highlight. Like I told you a couple weeks ago, when you studying, you highlight this stuff. When you recognize certain Jews, you highlight it. So again, when you go back and study it, you look at the highlights and say, all right, well, this means that I need to put more energy into this sentence, to this phrase, or to this word, and you go back and investigate it. That's how you learn this. So the temple court, he stood at the temple court. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. So you have lived in sin. The poor cries in your streets, and you regard them not. Your neighbors, who are they? You have defrauded friends, foes alike. You worship Allah with voice and lips. Your hearts are far away and set on gold. Your priests have bound upon the people burdens far too great to bear. They live in ease upon the hard-earned wages of the poor. Your lawyers, doctors, scribes are useless cumbers of the ground. They are but tumors on the body of the state. I'm going to repeat that, just 24 though. Your lawyers, your doctors,
Islam.
your scribes
Islam.
are useless cumbers on the ground. They are but tumors on the body of the state. So let me break that down. They're tumors on the body of the state. Remember, the state is perception again, because state can mean body, jural society, political society, government. State can also represent a band of people, a group of people to associate themselves within a certain society, which is also the people, the common people. They form the state. The people forms the state, just like the people forms the government. So if these people are tumors on the body of the state, that means not the institution of a state. They're not a tumor on the institution called the state. It means that they're a tumor on the body collectively.
Body collective, right.
So no man lives unto himself again. So we got these entities and deities out there that becomes tumors on the political body of the people, period.
That's right. That's right.
Of whatever we call ourselves. And I'm not just pointing them out as they're the problems by themselves, because he's not speaking to them directly. He's speaking to the common people. These are the lessons to the natives, the people who are being governed. He's not necessarily talking to the slaveholders right now. He's talking to the citizens. The representatives are also citizens, so it applies to them as well. But this is a general message that he's bringing to the citizens to save them, to prepare them.
Absolutely.
So he's pretty much saying, repent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the Messiah is coming. He's not saying he's the Messiah, but he's saying that he's coming to prepare the way.
The message, that's right.
And that's the lesson throughout scriptures and the Bible of who John really is.
That's right.
Or what they call John the Baptist.
Right.
Here he's just demonstrating the degrees of the harbinger because he's in the hills. But he also represents purity and light. So you got to come through John to get to Jesus. It has nothing to do with characters. This is the science of man. That in order to see the king or meet the king, because the nearest place we can meet the king is in the heart. In order to meet God, which is in the heart of the universe, not the physical heart of man, but in order to be one with God, you must first be pure at heart. And in order to be pure in heart, you have to repent from your sins. That's what John's lesson is to the four corners. Which is, again, that becomes our lesson. So he learned that from the ancient Egyptian schools. So these are the lessons that they were getting in the pyramids, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
We today, we look at the pyramids and all of this stuff, and we start talking about it's all high masonry and getting up in this and that, and we want to do some magic. We thinking that's what the lessons of the pyramids was. When I'm telling you, it's the basics.
That's it.
We stray away from the basics, which are the highest lessons, and then we want to use other stuff that we can't see as scapegoats. And say, well, I'm dealing with this, and we in a small group and we deal with this type of stuff. We pass that stuff. We don't deal with physical stuff at all. And again, when people talk like that, they're just sending you for a loop.
That's right. Egos. Absolutely.
So I'm gonna continue. It says your neighbors, who are they? They have defrauded friends and foes alike. And again, we go in and just deal with this society, man. It's just what we see. Our neighbors, look out the streets, look in the streets. It's just, this is what we dealing with. These are our neighbors. And us too. You know, we haven't came up out of that vortex yet, but this is what we around. This is the job. This is what we up against. This is society. This is the school. This is the government. So, you know, back to last week's lesson, why is things the way they are? We got to understand it's the people. You want to change government, you got to change the people first. You can't change the government seats until you change the people, until you change the neighbors, until you change the friends. You can't change the doctors. The people demand the doctors to be there. They fund the doctors. The doctors will not be there if we didn't fund them. Trust me. They have to find another occupation. That's why they come to this country, because this is where they get paid the most. They don't get paid to be doctors in India. That's a very rare occupation, because every household is a doctorate. Seriously, we got to understand. We got to travel mentally and even physically if we have to understand this game. So most of your doctors are not natives here. Go into the hospitals right now. The doctor's name you can't pronounce. Ask them their nationality. They're foreign. Why? They're pulling them from other places to come over here because of the demand. Because of the demand of the services. Attorneys, no different. The attorneys on every block because of the demand for them to be there. If every household has statesmen, then there wouldn't be attorneys on every block. They have to look for something else to do. So again, we keep looking at them, and we always want to blame people. Them, they're the problem for us being in this position. And it's not them, it's us. And these are the lessons of John, lessons of Jesus, lessons of anybody in any of the scriptures. Even if you want to go back to Imhotep, it's the same science. Ankh-9. I don't care what era time you want to go to, what lessons that you call upon. All the lessons are the same.
That's right. All the concepts and all the messages are still the same. That's right.
It's all the same.
All the same.
Gonna continue. $25 I'm at, Islam. They toil not, neither do they spin, yet they consume the profits of your marts of trade. And again, I think I talked about that last week as well, about the marts of trades. Moors, Moroccans, Moabites, whatever you want to call us, navigators. We were merchants.
Absolutely.
The prophet referred to us as seafaring people.
Seafaring people.
He said we once fed the world. And then there's going to become a time where we're going to feed the world again. Right? So again, All of this accumulation of information is lessons are to mold the mind of who you are, who you were, and who you ought to be. So we got to revisit that, and then we say, listen, well, I'm a merchant. If I'm saying I'm a Moor, I'm saying I'm a navigator. I'm saying I am these things.
That's right.
All of these things made me who I am today. Forget what we're doing collectively. The point is, when you have the confidence to know that you can be something, then that invokes you to work towards that. So we can't be stuck in our mind, like it's saying here. They said it best. Yet they consume the profits of your marts of trade. So I said last week, we're saying we're a nation, but we have no trade power. We have no trade resources. So that's a very big key to being a nation. Everybody recall that lesson last week? So therefore, that has to be on the top of the list of nationality and birthright. You can't mention nationality and birthright without mentioning marts of trade. Technically, in the international world, you can't mention that. If you came to an international platform and wasn't talking that, they'd be looking at you like you're out to lunch. And then you'll probably be accused of taking up people's time, like a contempt of court.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want to hear about what you learned. They want to hear about what you can contribute. So that's all those who want to talk League of Nations, United Nations, and international type of stuff. And until we're talking that, then you're wasting your time. But on the flip side of that statement, everyone else is living off of our virtues.
Absolutely.
So the marks, we are the consumers. They mention the word consume, but we're the consumers.
That's right.
That's why they refer to us as consumers.
That's right.
So our thought patterns create the demand for them to be what they refer to as being rich, successful, higher class, or whatever. They've replaced roles with us in society.
That's right.
They live in the luxurious part of town. We don't. They trade it. So we can't blame them. We have to apply the knowledge that they have in order to get that again. We don't want to be a beggar people. We don't want to stand down at the bottom throwing rocks, talking about you stole this, you're a thief, I want this back, and looking for ways to get back at people for what they have done. The only way that we're going to accumulate what we had in integrity is by knowledge.
That's right. That's wrong.
Then we'll be able to keep it and appreciate it.
That's right.
But if we just got it right now ad hoc, like a 40 acres and a mule type of situation, if they want to sign over, here, I'm gonna give you 10 states right now into the hands of the Asiatics. The Black Americans can have 10 states right now. You still not gonna be able to do nothing with it.
Nope. They'll take it right back.
No one's gonna get anything off of that. It's gonna be a madhouse. You'll have more theft and murder
More chaos.
if they did that.
Yep.
More chaos.
That's right.
Because there's no order.
And they know it.
Yeah, just like what?
Like a blackout.
Blackout
When it happens,
and
we
Black
destroy-
Wall Street, same thing.
Destroy one another.
It'll just be a reoccurring situation.
They'll take it.
That's why he says, I'm going to keep the European there long enough to teach you government. Because you can't have an accumulation of this stuff, which is land, resources, gold, silver, whatever it is. We can't have it with a Negro mind. We can't keep it with a Negro mind. So there's no sense of getting it with a Negro mind. So it's in like reserve.
It's in trust.
Trust, reserve, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know, people keep trying to say well, Drew Ali left a mandate, and people holding the mandate don't want to tell you about the mandate because, and people are all wrong about this stuff. They have no idea what this is all about. The lesson says that the good thing in the hands of a fool will lead to his own destruction. Islam, boy, you had your hand up.
Sure. I just want to add on to everything you just said was one of the prophet's statements that I'll give you everything, you go back to sleep.
Yeah, go right back to sleep.
So it's kind of like when people in the movement say, well, why it's not easy to do this and do that in the third? It's because if you just come out of the Negro state yesterday and got your vast state back tomorrow, you go back to sleep. You'll never obtain the highest you needed to get in the first place. And now you got everything that you need.
Islam. Absolutely. Islam. 26. Your rulers are adulterers,
That's right.
extortioners,
That's right.
and thieves,
That's right.
regarding not the rights of any man. So we know that.
If that's not true today, boy, we never know it.
It's
Islam. If we can't all agree with that, then we got a problem.
Definitely 100% true. 100% true.
But somebody look at this as religious.
Yeah,
You know,
it's not law.
Yeah, that's not, you ain't dealing with law. But
Dealing with law.
and robbers ply their calling in the sacred hills. The holy temple you have sold. The holy temple you have sold to thieves.
Ooh.
Their dens are in sacred places set apart for prayer. Hear, hear, you people of Jerusalem. Reform. Turn your evil ways of Allah. Turn your evil ways, or Allah will turn from you. And heathen from afar will come. And what is left of all of your honor and your fame will pass in one short hour.
Wow. Indeed. No.
I'm gonna repeat that because
it's not great. I know you gotta repeat it.
It says, and heathens
Come
from afar will come. And what is left of all of your honor and your fame will pass in one short hour. Prepare, Jerusalem, prepare to meet your king. He said no more. He left the court and no one saw him again. The priests, the doctors, and the scribes were all enraged. They sought for John. And I want to say something else, but I'm not.
I mean that,
but in a diplomatic way, they sought for John.
You know, they wanted to talk to him.
Yeah, they wanted to talk to him.
Yeah,
they wanted to bring him in for questioning.
Give him a fair trial.
Yeah, give him a fair trial. He just pulled their whole card.
Yeah, he's gonna get a petit jury, all right.
Of his peers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I like that. That's a great good lesson.
But it says intent to do him harm.
Of course, straight up. They don't want to talk now.
But they found him not. Because they found him not because he was protected. So when you're working with divinity like that, you can't look at consequence.
No.
You know, we can deliver similar message, which we do, but those leaders who put themselves out there to demonstrate, like the harbinger and the messiahs, you know, again, they're going to seek for you. However, they wasn't afraid to the point where, well, I can't do that. I'm not going to go speak the truth because I don't want them coming looking for me. That separates now the average people we were talking about from them angels we was talking about earlier. Because an angel is going to carry those messages.
Regardless.
The angel is not going to be compromised. The angel not just going to be sitting home with a bunch of knowledge but don't want to leave the house because they don't want nobody looking for them.
Yeah.
That's how you tell the difference. You know, so dealing with the lessons, this is what we have. If we were to duplicate these lessons, that's a whole nother vibration.
Oh man, totally.
And this is where your divine retribution comes from carrying out the messages. These are the messages, regardless of how you don't have to bring it in this same form that might be referred to as religious. But if you speak in the same message, the same language, in whatever language you want to kick it in, this is part of the angles of the light that is supposed to shed the earth. So it again is up to us to bring it into the way we feel fit. But either way, this is what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Whether you're bringing it in the form of music,
Right.
poetry, physical lessons, charity, whatever you're doing,
That's
know, you have to look for your measure. Just like it says, why did Allah send Jesus to the earth? You got to ask, why did Allah send Shatik to this earth? You know, why did Allah send Flying Goat to this earth? Because everybody has a similar mission, just like all the prophets had a similar message.
Absolutely.
But they were invoked differently in the way and where they went, how they demonstrated it, how they orchestrated it was in their own measure.
So it's safe to say that we are the same concept is with us to be those missionaries to carry out the same.
Yes, we are mission. The charter of the Moorish Science Temple stipulates to consecrate missionaries of the Prophet. That's what he did through his lessons. He invoked and cloned himself through his membership, through this nation. That's what that is. That's what that is. So again, we can carry the umbrella of all of this, but if we don't go out there and show and prove that we missionaries, then it's all for nothing. For the individual, that is. The movement gonna remain what it is, but it's either we're part of the movement or we're not. The movement is divine. There's nothing we can do to the movement. The movement is kinetic. It's going to continue to do its job because it's a divine movement. Whether or not we want to participate with it, that's a choice we have to make. But the movement is going to live on. It's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do. This is the race of time, the journey of the race. So we can either participate or you join a race or you get out the race. That's on another angle of this, where Drew Ali talked from that angle.
Exactly.
If you have race pride and love your race, he said, then join the Moorish Science Temple of America and become what? A part of the movement.
A part of the movement.
Then he said, then you'll have power to redeem your race.
Right. Redeem your race. That's right.
That's powerful words.
Very.
Because if we don't do that, what is he saying? You're not going to have the power to redeem the race.
And you are the enemy to your own race.
Right.
What a state I mean with you.
But going back to the same statement earlier, we call these men the revealers of the light. They must have the light to reveal the light. That's what this all boils down to. That we have race pride and love our race, then join the Moorish Science Temple of America, become a part of the movement. Then you will have the power to redeem your race. The redemption of man is what this all boils down to. That's why we're here. We're not here to tap into no gold. We're not here to deal with the right to travel, to be able to go to and fro without somebody messing with you. Those are minute aspects of this. The real reason and mission why we're here is to redeem man. If you go back to the front cover of the Quran, it should say that.
Redeem man from
You
his
should
sins.
say it on the front cover.
Yes.
Fallen stage of humanity.
To redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity
Turn him
back to the highest plane of life with his Father, God. That's the reason why we should be here. So as a disclaimer, if one is not here for that, you're in the wrong place. There's other doors you can go to that might have other things that they might want to deal with, and you're welcome to go try that. But here, our mission is to redeem man. So our interest should only be in that one direction. Islam? Islam. Any questions? Yes, sir.
And the question, I just want to add on to the whole chapter of why he was even sitting in silence in the first place. And it brought me to chapter 8, ayah 7. Allah's meeting place with man is in the heart, and in the still small voice he speaks, and he who hears is still. So after he sat in silence, and I could just imagine that he got an abundance of awakening of information and connecting with the universe, that he felt the vibration and knew what he needed to do.
Islam. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that meditation, that silence, that even can be in the form of fasting. You know, there's different rituals behind how you do that. But I mean, it's different. It's like when you fast certain days accomplishes different healing processes. So there's no such thing as just a fast or one type of fast. A person can't just say, well, I fast. And there's different types of fasts for different accomplishments. So again, when you go into a fast, you have to know what it is you're trying to accomplish, because there's instructions to come with each type of fast. Whether you can do a 1-day fast, you can do a 12-hour fast, you can do a 3-day fast. A 3-day fast has different significance from a 7-day fast. So again, if you don't know what you're trying to get out of it, it's going to be for naught. You can fast and don't accomplish nothing because you didn't have a mission and you didn't understand it. And then you can't teach somebody else how to fast if you never understood your fast. And you can't just do what somebody else said to do and fast because the book said fast this way, and then you just did it, and then now you want to teach somebody else how to fast. But if you don't understand it, you're not qualified to teach nobody. Islam? Islam was, thank everybody for their stillness. I think it was a great lesson, great day. Islam. And proclamation, do you have it handy?
Yes, I do.
Islam, you can read it and close out, please.
Okay.
Islam.
Thanks, Grand Chief, for the lesson. That was a beautiful lesson. Matter of fact, all the lessons that started from the morning is, definitely right on point. Tuesday, January 15th, 1929, Prophet warns all Muslims, governors ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they end all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the street, because we are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans because it causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation and your salvation only. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence, which I'm sure those have already endured that for their disobedience. We are for love, truth, peace, and freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice then must take its course. Any member, group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should what? Turn in their card button, he's wearing their turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet's not right, the temple's not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and their temple. The end of time is drawing near now, so said Allah to his holy and divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. That's the reason why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but can't see, have ears to hear, but can't hear. At least they would be concerned about their sins. These are the trying hours, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving now. They are trying every weak mind to tear down and drag out the true foundation which has been laid down by me, the prophet. But if you have love of Allah in your hearts and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not nothing you hear or see, but will sacrifice to the utmost of your very life to protect your prophet and your movement. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sins. Islam. And with that, I rise and say, face the east to each and every one.
Stand on the square.
Stand on the square. 5 fingers up on the left, 2 fingers up on the right, and repeat after Sister Majay.
Allah,
Allah,
the Father of the universe,
the Father of the universe,
the Father of love,
the Father of love,
truth,
peace,
peace, freedom, and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector,
My guide,
and my salvation,
by
by night
and by day,
and by day,
through his holy prophet,
through Ali. Amen. Meeting is now closed, Moors.
Islam.